I think I've tried my best to take lessons from those that came before me. And I am never scared to go to someone that I know that has more experience than I do, go in the office, shut the door, and go, I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to handle this situation. So here, let me talk this out with you. And what would your thoughts be?
Leadership is everywhere. In our work, in our family, in our community. We see leaders by their actions. We know their legacy. This podcast is about leaders, people just like you, doing amazing things every day. I hope these stories inspire you, they motivate you, and they fuel your leadership legacy. My name is Vicki Guy. Welcome to Ignite.
Hi, and welcome to Ignite. Today, we are going to focus on mentorship and how it shows up different ways in our work. People always tell us that it's so important to have a mentor, but they don't always tell us the impact of that mentorship. Today, our guest has been in journalism for 25 years, wearing many different hats and working her way up the corporate ladder. Allison is the newsroom director for WKMG, News Channel 6 in Orlando, and she is going to give us a peek into mentorship in a newsroom, and she's also going to share her insight on the scrutiny in the media today. So right after the short break, we'll be back to talk to Allison.
I'm James Packer. I'm the General Manager of Kirk ISS based in the Cayman Islands. I used IT Pro TV extensively in my last place. It grew very well, helped upskill the team. I had 110 engineers in the field and we had dozens of IT Pro accounts with the guys training, and last year alone they passed over 40 certs by using the online training. I think I can safely say without IT Pro TV I wouldn't be where I was today, because I only got this job on the back of the qualifications I have.
Hi, and welcome back to Ignite. Today we are joined with Allison McGinley from WKMG, Orlando News 6, and Allison is the news director for that station. And Allison, thank you so much for being on Ignite. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, when I was looking for people to come onto our podcast, because Ignite is all about stories about people doing really cool things. And I met you through a mutual friend. I was really excited to bring you on, not only because of your history in journalism, but also because I've heard about some of the things that you've been able to do in your role. So help us understand a little bit about your role as a news director.
Sure. I think by virtue of the title, the expectation is that I choose the lead story of the day and I dictate, if you will, what stories are played in what order. And it's a little bit true, but I have a lot of good folks that are on our team that do that just fine. The reality is, it is my job to set a course for our news department, an editorial course to help us shape how we tell stories, the stories we choose to tell, the way we go about doing the business of journalism here in Central Florida. But what I discovered, having been in the role now for a little over 4 years, is it's really about taking care of the 90 people that are under my leadership. Those reporters, those producers, those photographers, those assignment editors, the web content producers, they're each individual human beings, and they make up our team, and they each have their own individual needs, whether they be professional needs of growth and career direction, or something personal that they might be dealing with, that they need somebody to just hear them out and help them. And so it was really fascinating to me that when I took this chair and took this office and took this leadership role, that I would be dictating content, I would be directing, the editorial vision, or part of the team that directs the editorial vision for a television station. But really, in reality, it was taking care of 90 people in my newsroom and making sure that all they wanted to accomplish for themselves, for their community, and for this television station is realized.
That is a huge responsibility. Taking care of people in general it's a heavy load, because people are not all the same. They have emotions, they have preferences, they have different personality styles. So I know that human connection can sometimes be, it can be challenging at times, especially with a volume of 90 people. So I'm wondering, over the course of your career, has it changed, or have you always known that you wanted to be in journalism and then even be in leadership in the journalism arena?
Yeah, it's interesting. Journalism, yes, always knew that from the time I was in high school, and I helped start my high school television news program. I grew up in a small community in northern Central Florida in Lake County, and helped create that news organization at the high school in the late '80s. And I always knew I wanted to do journalism. I always knew it was important to be aware, to be knowledgeable, so that I could make the right decisions I needed to make for myself, my family, my community. So news has always been in my blood for some reason. I think it's, we all get excited to cover the big stories. We all are interested in being kind of in that know and being the first to know. As I've gone through, I've noticed the power that we have as journalists to make change, to make people aware of what's going on in their community, right, wrong, or indifferent, and bring it to light, maybe right some of those wrongs, maybe help some of those folks that didn't know which way to turn, and we were able to tell their story and get results. But then as my career path kind of moved forward, I was placed into roles of leadership for reasons, I guess, that people saw me as a leader, even though I may not have noticed that myself yet. And now, having grown into this role, I absolutely embrace and adore the idea that I am getting to lead a team of wonderful journalists and getting to help move them forward in their career, as well as shaping the ability to make a difference in our community.
You know what I find most interesting about, well, a lot of things I find interesting about what you just said, but the most interesting thing that I just hung on to was that, maybe you didn't see it, but others saw leadership capability in you. And I think that's true for a lot of people, right? I think there's a lot of people that are natural leaders, but they may not even recognize that in themselves. So for you to be put in those situations and then thrive, I think it's just clearly, you have those natural traits to be able to lead others.
I think so, but I think then it becomes important for me to make sure that I'm seeing that in others and I'm continuing to pass that down, and putting those people in positions, making sure they can handle it, never going with a sink or swim attitude, but a attitude that I'm here to empower you and help you move you along. And because people did that for me, I completely feel that that's what I should be doing as I help others grow.
Yeah. How do you see that? How do you recognize that in somebody else to know that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and perhaps give them a little extra time or some mentorship? How do you recognize it?
I think it starts with initiative. And I tell everybody in the newsroom all the time, raise your hand. Somebody said that to me years ago, and you may be nervous, you may be scared to take on that next big challenge, but, raise your hand. And when managers see you raise your hand and say, I'm willing to tackle that, I'm willing to take that on, I'm willing to give that a try, then that's how you've got somebody that you want to invest in. You may see that they've got a particular talent towards something specific. Maybe it's a topic they have interest in. Maybe they're interested in this end of technology in your business. And so finding projects and opportunities for them, and then encouraging them along the way, not just handing that over to them and saying, okay, go do this now, because they may not know how to do it yet. But you can kind of walk side by side with them down that path, and that helps them gain confidence. They get to do something that they love, and try something different or try something new, and then they are looked at by their peers as leaders, and it kind of just continues to grow on itself. At least that's always my hope.
Yeah. Taking that initiative, taking that first step to say, hey, I want to do this, or I have an interest in this topic or in this project, isn't easy for some people to be able to say, hey, and it's so interesting. I think it goes back to that personality style as well, because I know that I'm the kind of person that if I want to do something, I say, hey, I want to do this. And then people later go, how did you do that? And I say, well, I just asked, right? But exactly. I don't think that that's true for everybody. So when somebody is on your team and you see that they have that personality style that, perhaps they're not the one to say, hey, I want to do this. Is there anything that you've been able to do in your experience to kind of pull them out and expose some of that leadership capability?
Yeah, I think so. I think, that kind of goes to knowing your people. having a personal connection with each individual person on your team. And that's not always easy, but it's having an open door policy, making sure that that you're not closed off from your team. I think that's number one. I think number two is explaining how it's happened for other people. And I try to do that often. We hold monthly meetings where I try to highlight a project that somebody or an idea that somebody brought to the forefront, brought to our news management team and said, hey, this person did this. And the reason they did it is because they asked. And we have a running joke kind of in the newsroom that if you walk into Allison's office with an idea, you're going to get yourself more work because it's a way to empower them and enable them to take on these projects. So I think cultivating an environment where people see it happening and it becomes less scary. I just had an incident today where I had somebody come into my office and say, hey, I wanted to talk to you about a couple ideas. I'm like, sure, I'm available. We sat and talked, and their thought process was, well, this is probably really not going to happen, but I thought I'd throw it out there. And I said, I don't see why it's not going to happen. I want you to go home, really think about it, put together a little one sheet of what your idea is. You know what our workflow is. So is it really an option for us? How do we make it an option? How do we make it something that if we are going to commit to our viewers that we're going to do this once a week or once a day or once a month? The chaos that can reign sometimes. So how do we still get it done? How do we still fulfill that for our viewers? And, come back to me on Monday. And if you've got that kind of plan, I'll help you figure it out. I'll help you make it happen. And so it's not a scary process. It shouldn't be. Walking into your boss's office or your manager's office should not be scary. And I've really enjoyed that in my career where I really rarely have I ever felt that walking into my superior's office has been superior, has been where I was walking into somebody's office that I couldn't speak to. And so that's really important to me, that's the way I lead, is that, and it's interesting because I sent out a note at the end of the year and we had 5 really cool things that we launched this year, whether they be franchises or segments or digital products or whatever. And when I sat down to write about it, I realized 4 of the 5 were brainchildren of the team members, had nothing to do with managers, creating those ideas. They were birthed from the people in the newsroom. And I think that's what makes them so successful, because those people are passionate about that and they want to do it and they get excited and they pitch it and then they make it happen and they see that it's successful and they get excited and then others get excited. To go back to your question, I think that that's how it becomes less scary to raise your hand, because you see that other people have done it and then they're successful. And we do that as a team. We make it successful as a team. You don't ever let anybody sink or swim.
Mm-hmm. What I love also about that is that human connection that you mentioned earlier is really kind of the root of all of that, right? Knowing your people, having that human connection, being open about communication, that really has worked to inspire your team. And it's probably contagious. It sounds like it is in your case, contagious and just grows and builds on each other over time.
I hope so, for certain, and I think that's so important. And I'm not the only one that behaves that way in our newsroom. Our entire management team has that kind of idea that the door is always open, the conversation is there to be had. And, in the news business, it can be in any industry, probably. This is what I know, but there are times of such concentrated energy and for good or for bad, really hard, concentrated work, and you spend so very much time with these people that they become your second family. And families should communicate inside work and outside.
They should, yes. That's a good another topic for another day. You had mentioned to me previously that you've been with WKMG for 25 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't mind me saying that. And that I imagine that over those 25 years, you've had the opportunity to create a lot of personal connections. What would you say you're most proud of over those 25 years? I know that's a tough question because there's probably a lot of things that you're proud of, but if you had to pick one that stands out in your mind that you think, wow, this really put an anchor in my career, and I use the word anchor not on purpose, but this really put, a stake in my career in terms of what I'm proud of, what would that be?
Gosh, 25 years, I guess, is a long time to do any one particular thing. I think I am most proud of the fact that I can say that I have worked my way up inside this organization. I have forever been proud of this television station. I think we have always done incredible work. We've always been concerned about our community and put our community's needs first. So I think by the time I got to this chair, I feel like I had experienced and done many other jobs, so that now when I sit in this chair and I ask something of someone else, I'm never asking of them something that I haven't, to the best of my ability, experienced as well, and I think it leads me to the thing I'm most proud of. And honestly, that's my newsroom. It's the people that make up this team. And it takes time. I started out, I remember when I took this job, and we had quite a few reporter openings, and the folks that I've been able to hire, and the word of mouth, and the way, somebody tells somebody, hey, this is a good place to work. This is a good place. They'll let you do good work. They want to push you to do good work. And that's really led us to be able to recruit some top-notch journalists, some phenomenal storytellers. And I think that that's probably what I would be proudest of, is the fact that this is a place I think people really want to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sounds like through a lot of mentoring and human relationships and communication, all the things that we've been talking about, that kind of has built up to where you are today in terms of building that team. So it sounds pretty interesting and a great place to work. And it sounds like a lot of fun. I know I've watched the channel, and you can tell they're having some fun, even on the air, during some serious times. And speaking of serious times, I know that in the recent years, the media has been under a lot of scrutiny in terms of, what they say, how they say it, et cetera. And not to go into any kind of political discussion, but I'm wondering, under that theme of, inspiring others, that communication, that human connection, perhaps the motivation or the mentoring, how do you keep your team positive, inspired, motivated through all of the scrutiny that's happening with the media?
Yeah, that can be incredibly difficult. The good side of it is our viewers, our community can reach out to us in so many different ways now. So many different social media platforms, through our website. It used to be they could only pick up the phone and call us or write us a letter and tell us what we were doing right or wrong. Now there's umpteen ways for our viewers to tell us what they think of us. And that can be very difficult for the team to, especially if they feel like they're being criticized, and most definitely unfairly criticized. A lot of times I think folks are trying to lump the local media in with this national media attack, where, they're opinionated cable programs and things like that. What I would really, really hope that we are able to daily remind our viewers about is that we are members of the community just as they are. My reporters live next door to you. Their kids go to school with your kids. It would make absolutely no sense for a journalist to make something up or to slant something one way or the other. We live in these communities. We go to the same restaurants. We go to the same football games. And I think it's really important for folks to remember that the local journalists are members of our community. And oftentimes we are the ones that get called when they're struggling to get something done, because they feel like there's bureaucracy and there's red tape and they're not getting the help that they need. And so they'll call us, and we, that is what we do. We get results. That is it's so much more than a tagline. It is truly what we live, sleep, eat, and breathe here at our newsroom. And so as difficult as that can be to bear in this current climate, I think as long as we know at the end of the day that we feel good about the stories that we are telling and sharing, then then there's nothing for anybody to criticize and critique, because we are only doing what we believe is right for our community, highlighting those stories that we believe are important. Being an informed and educated member of society and local communities is so very important. So if at the end of the day, we as a team feel like we've done right by our viewers, there's nothing to feel badly about. And you just kind of go, oh, you know what, I'm not even going to listen to that anymore, because we know what kind of work we're doing. But it can be a morale buster, and it can feel unfair to be kind of pegged as that. So basically what it means is we just have to fight a little bit harder to rise above that noise and really showcase the kind of hard work that we know we're doing,
Mm-hmm. And I imagine that the voice of your leadership, reminding them of that, goes a long way.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do. I really hope so. And it's important to be, I share with all of our team members, I'm a member of several journalism organizations that really do what we can to remind the American people, the Floridians, the Central Floridians, the Orlandoans, going down that far, that hyper local, that this is what we're here to do. We're not here to spin you. We're not here to tell you only half truths. We got into this business because we were curious people, and we wanted to know the facts, and we wanted to know the reality of a situation. And so we have been educated as to how to get those pieces of information so that then we can share them with you. And if we try to simplify things, or we try to explain things, we're not changing the facts. We're just simplifying and explaining and educating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally makes sense. And you just mentioned an association, and I know you're pretty involved in the, if I get it right, Radio, Television, Digital News Association, and you've recently been elected to the board. Is that correct? Congratulations.
Thank you. It is it's a wonderful organization. It is the oldest professional organization for journalists. So it's a national organization, like I said, of reporters, producers, news directors, anybody that might work in a newsroom is welcome to be a part of this association. Our focus is on educating. It's interesting. When you get into the news business, you get into it to write or to connect with people, to capture video. It depends on what your interest is. Nobody really during that time teaches you how to manage. So as you grow in your career, you're recognized, as we talked about earlier, and you're placed into these roles of leadership. And one of our big focuses is trying to train and grow leaders inside of a news business. Again, like I said, I've only worked in the news industry, but my assumption is that in corporate America, more often than times, there's training programs that you kind of go through that get you ready to be that leader, that manager. And I think in news, if you're a good producer, you become an EP. If you're a good reporter, maybe you become an EP, but nobody teaches you how to manage the people. So RTDNA, one of our focuses really is that mentoring and growing of true leadership talent within our industry, to let them know that, we're here to help them. So there's a lot of courses we do. There's a lot of conferences we host, webinars. We're in the colleges as much as we possibly can to bolster internship programs, to connect young, hungry students and minds with local television newsrooms that are looking for that kind of energy and ability. And then the other big part of RTDNA's job is defending the rights of journalists and defending the First Amendment and defending our abilities to go request records and to get to the facts and to get to the truth. So those are kind of the platforms of that organization, and I'm incredibly thrilled to be a part of it and to be a representative for our region, which is Florida, Georgia, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, so a big role with that association as well. You had mentioned that, oftentimes in journalism and many other organizations, and I can say for sure, people are promoted if they're good at their job. So if you're a technician, you're promoted to be the manager of technicians. If you're a salesperson, you're now promoted to be a manager of other salespeople. And oftentimes, I know a lot of my clients, they don't provide leadership training, and sometimes we get taken back a little bit by what's involved in leading other people and connecting the people to each other and to the vision of the company. How has your role with the association helped you do that with the station?
I've got to say first, I'm blessed that the company that owns our television station, Graham Media, understands that need for leadership training. So they had sent me to a couple of conferences and a couple of leadership training opportunities. And we actually, as a company, host a school for new managers, kind of a week-long, boot camp, if you will, of things that you might encounter and how to handle these situations. So I am really blessed in that. But I know that not every company affords that. And that's what makes me excited to be part of that part of RTDNA, where we are looking at, creating those opportunities to bring potential leaders together and new leaders together to learn from each other and to learn from experts. And I think in my own newsroom, I think I've tried my best to take lessons from those that came before me. And I am never scared to go to someone that I know that has more experience than I do, go in the office, shut the door, and go, I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to handle this situation. So here, let me talk this out with you. And what would your thoughts be? And I'm blessed with having some directorial colleagues within the company and within the building where I could pick up the phone and call or walk down the hall and talk to them and say, hey, you know what? Help me think through this one so that I don't make a hiccup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it sounds like that mentorship relationship, either as a mentee or a mentor, is really powerful and has been for your career. Have you ever had a formal mentor in your career?
I would never say that I had a formal mentor relationship. I think that's why I am so big on making sure that I am available to somebody. But there have been people that I have made sure to take time to learn from. And I have a woman that I'm really close with here at the TV station that she's actually probably the reason that I threw my hat in the ring for this position 4 years ago. She believed in me. She doesn't do my job. She didn't do my job. She works in a department that's associated with what we do. But she saw something in me. And then my general manager, who's the other reason that I decided to throw my hat in the ring, is a consistent source of training and understanding. And, he's just a fantastic sounding board. And I think that's what's so important and really kind of gives back to me and encourages me to do more, giving back to the folks that are in the newsroom and in the colleges. There's folks that I talk with regularly that aren't even in my newsroom because I've met them at a conference and they email me, or I've met them on a college campus discussion, group or something like that. So I try to be as open and available as I can, because there have been people in my life that have been open and available for me.
Mm-hmm. Allison, we could talk for a really long time. I know that, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. And I wanted to find out, before we wrap up our interview, is there anything that you can share with our viewers, our listeners, about how they can build their own leadership capability, the best practice from what you've seen in your career that you think would help other people grow?
It's funny. The other day, I had one of my producers go off to have a new job, and he's an executive producer somewhere. So I sent him a quick text, and I was like, "These are the things. Just if you're going to take anything from me, take a couple of these things." So I was thinking about it in preparation for our conversation today, and there are two really important things that I think we should always, as managers, remember. And number one is that not everybody is always going to function at the same speed and rate of energy that you are on any given day. Nor are you, so we all have different levels of energy. You should use your energy to help raise the energy of that person should they be kind of dragging that day, but also recognize there are some days where they're not going to meet you. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to just let that go. And you have to not always run at 100 miles an hour, because it's not normal. And I think as managers, a lot of times we're juggling a bunch of projects and we're trying to do a bunch of things. So we're going full speed ahead. And if you're going to be effective and effectively lead a team, you have to understand that we all operate at different levels of energy at different times, and to be respectful of that. The other one that I really think is important, and I tell people this a lot, I have kind of an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, I'm going to do everything in my power to make you happy, and it's going to fit within the confines of what the TV station needs, and so we're all going to be happy. 20% of the time, you're not going to be happy with me. You're going to not like the assignment. You're going to not like what I've asked you to do. You're going to not like the no that I answered you. But I'm, again, looking at the bigger picture. And this time your needs and the station's needs didn't quite mesh. So if I can, through the relationship with a colleague, with a team member, have that kind of 80-20 balance, I think that that's going to lead to a pretty successful partnership over time. So those are a couple of thoughts that I had.
Those are really good. I'm going to put those in my pocket and keep those, because actually the first one I could have used earlier today. But
yeah, we can all use that.
That's right. Well, Allison, thank you so much for being with us today. And after this short break, we'll be back with some final thoughts.
Enjoying Ignite? Then you'll want to check out Technado, another podcast from the IT Pro TV network. In each episode, hosts Peter and Don recap the week's top tech news and interview IT experts from around the globe. Learn more at itpro.tv/podcasts.
We just heard from Allison about several ways mentorship shows up in the newsroom. She says to raise your hand and be present in your work. And when that happens, learning is all around you. Thank you for being with us today. Please subscribe to our podcast and check us out at orendaleadership.com and at itpro.tv. From all of us at Ignite, I'm Vicki Guy.